priced at 79 US dollar. As you can see here, you can get it from Linsoul Audio. And what you're going to get inside, of course, inside this box will be the IEM itself here. Comes with this nice looking cable, okay? And interestingly, two major different type of silicon tips, which is designated as Tang Sanchai. And the way I look at it, the shape of this first selection of the silicon tip being the typical, concave type, which is comes in, seems to me like a medium to wide bore, and the other one is a bit more, let's say, straight with the wall itself. Okay, so you can clearly see here side by side how do they differ, and the texture of the silicon tip also seems to be not as the typical smooth silicon tip that you would see from many other IM, and it does impart different sound of sonic performance. Wearing this Xuan is pretty much very straightforward affair. Okay, so if you look at it, constructed entirely of hard resin, 3D printed resin, pretty much it's similar to many other type of IM that you see nowadays. Okay, and ergonomically it is definitely organic. So attaching it like this and like this, and adjust the chin slider here. The first thing that I observe, even as I'm speaking right now, is that the isolation is super good. Okay, this is one of the IM which I would consider as very good with isolation. If you want to have passive noise suppression, you're not going to hear that much of ambient sound leaking into the IEM itself, which is a good thing. And another thing is that the comfort level. Now, it depends also on the type of your ear, the shape of your ear. For me, you would notice that here, this one seems to be quite thick, because what you're going to find inside is a two dynamic driver, 10mm and 8mm, okay, side by side. So in order to accommodate those drivers, it have to be made thick. And because it is thick, at the back here, the shape of the IEM itself, kind of like a bit, how should I put it? Okay, after wearing this for about 1 hour, above the point of 1 hour, I can clearly feel that the rear section of this shape here touches my ear kind of a bit, stronger than other IEM which I have in my collection, which means that after a while I do feel kind of a bit of small discomfort. But perhaps this is just a unique case to my ear. Perhaps it should be quite okay with other people, but I am just stating what's how I am experiencing it. Okay, now looking back at the configuration of this Xuan, as noted earlier, you're going to find two dynamic driver inside, okay, with the assembly of being side by side, and each of them offering different type of size. And the impedance rating for this Xuan is quite low at 8.5, but surprisingly, interestingly, the sensitivity is quite high, which is at quite low at 98 dB. Typically, you would see that most IEM nowadays would come with over 100 dB of sensitivity. But if I know anything about HBB, which is the one who actually advised Tangzu on the tuning of this IEM, all right, he seems to prefer something which is less sensitive. If you're familiar with HBB calibration and tuning, then you can be rest assured this is definitely another type of IEM which is synonymous with HBB, bass heavy, or even bass head IEM. At least that is how I would categorize it. Straight out of the box, one of the most prominent thing which I have heard was the dominance and the presence of the lower frequency, especially sub bass. All right, so let's just have a closer look at the sound presentation of this Xuan. Okay, I would definitely categorize this as being energetic, vibrant, and very fun sounding IEM. Okay, so for example, if you listen to certain type of music, especially electronic music, or even let's say pop music, dance music, or even hip hop, this is probably one of the IEM that you would want to use. Okay, there's a huge amount of coloration there, anywhere from mid-range to the lower frequency, and a bit of coloration on the upper frequency. So talking about the upper frequency, if you are the kind of person who love sparkly, energetic, and well-extended upper frequency, then definitely I would say that this Xuan is not suitable for that kind of sound presentation, because I can clearly hear that the upper frequency is kind of a bit roll off, So I am not hearing that much of extension itself, meaning that the decay is losing a bit of micro detail. But I do still get macro detail, which is a good thing. But when I compare with some other IEM which I have, which offer a bit more of extension, this is definitely something which I consider as being rolled off. And the side effect of that, you can be rest assured that this Xuanif will not be ever be offensive at all with the upper frequency, anywhere from the PINA region all the way to the treble decay. And when we talk about the mid-range, at least one thing that I like about this Xuanif is that it does hover closer to being, less colored, a bit more transparent, and a bit more linear neutral, close enough. Because I do sense that there's a bit of coloration with the mid-range itself, meaning that in a good way, it makes female and male vocal a bit more pronounced, a bit more bolder, and the presentation of the mid-range itself, the placement of the instrument, the singer itself, seems to be a bit more frontal as opposed to a traditional U curve or even V sound curve. So you can get rich sounding mid-range from this Xuanif. And let's talk about the key factor for why you want to get this Xuanif, the lower frequency. Okay, let's just have a look at the mid bass itself. It is definitely engaging. It has strong rumble and thump to it. The definition of the mid bass itself is very well defined in a way that I'm just simply saying that it is clean sounding. It does not sound boomy at all. Okay, the tonal balance of the mid bass itself is definitely something which I would consider as being commanding. Okay, and then the greatest strength of this Xuanif, the sub bass. Okay, so if you love Harman type of sub bass, definitely you would probably love this Xuanif because the way it disperses into the lowest frequency of the sub bass, I can feel that there's smoothness, okay, and the extension itself is comparable to more expensive IM, which I have heard so far. So in short, that is why I mentioned earlier, this Xuanif is super suitable for certain type of music, but not all type of music. So let me just remind you again, if you are listening to something like, classical, okay, or even technical jazz, then those type of music would require a bit more of precision, accuracy, and transparency. It doesn't sound too good when used with this Xuanif. But if you keep it to electronic music, or even pop music, dance music, hip hop, and even rock and metal music, then you're gonna be rest assured this is one fun sounding IM. Technically, it is also impressive, I would say, fairly analytical, but not very analytical, and it should not be the reason why you want to have Xuanif, because there are other IM which is more capable when it comes to being, technically competent. Okay, for example, I am hearing the soundstage itself kind of a bit circular and tall rather than wide, not spacious enough for my liking, but the layering is clean, okay? The attack and the definition of the macro detail is good, not so much on micro detail, but overall, I can't complain too much about this Xuanif when it comes to technicalities. 78 out of 100. That is the overall rating for this Tangzu Xuanif, okay, as compared with the rest of the competition in ND Order Award. Okay, so let's just have a closer look. How does it compare with the rest of the competition? Let's just compare it quickly with the another Tangzu IM, which is Warner SG, as you can see there. Warner SG scores 2 points lower overall as compared to this Xuanif, because I do believe that this Xuanif is an improved IM over what was started with Warner SG. The overall tuning of this Xuanif, despite being bass heavy, I must admit it does offer a bit of refinement when it comes to dynamic presentation and also dynamic extension. It does extend a bit better than Warner SG, and also when it comes to the rest of the sound presentation, which is tone and timbre, not weight and density, they are closely compared. With just, I must say that, Warner SG does have a better presentation when it comes to tone and timbre, being a bit more organic as opposed to this Xuanif. And when it comes to technicality, it is clear to me as well that this Xuanif is a better performer when compared against Warner SG, where it does offer a bit more of improved resolution and imaging, and also when it comes to synergy and versatility. Okay, and when we compare with some of the other competition released this year, and I would just simply say that I have heard better presentation coming from a bit more of well balanced, coming from something like Syngot EA 500LM or even Caffeine Delcy, two very popular IM which was released this year as well. The two of them might appear less bassy, a bit more, let's say, edge towards being neutral and natural, Okay, where else this is a specialist? This is definitely something which I would consider as for people who love big bass. A lot more presence of the lower frequency and not so much of the upper frequency. So being a specialist, it means also that you need to understand what kind of sound that you like. Okay, perhaps you have already owned, all right, SIMGOT EA500LM or even Caffeine DLC, and you feel that they are not offering enough bass, then this is the answer to your needs.